Welcome, Brad. I'm delighted to be joined by Brad Pennington here at the Risk Management and Trading Conference in Mexico City. It's wonderful to be with you. Welcome.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Silvia.
Would love to just dive in and discuss your background. You had an incredible career in Fintech, in risk management, in launching new products here in Mexico and around the world. Take us through your professional journey and really what brought you to this conference today.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. So most of my background, I started in a combination of computer science and finance. And so my first roles were really focused on algorithm building and what is now kind of data science and machine learning, and kind of followed that thread through first to the first kind of FinTech 1.0 boom, where I became the chief risk officer and led the R&D for Prosper Marketplace. And then in 2018, a very small company called Payjoy found me. They were doing about $1 million of revenue at the time, but they had this really cool idea where they could lock the end device. And we thought maybe you could use that to bring people into the credit system globally. And, 7 years on, we're, about 700 times larger on a revenue basis and have brought almost 17 million people into the global financial system, which is, awesome, because that's really what our mission is all about.
Congratulations on that phenomenal growth strategy. And I understand that Mexico was one of the first international markets that you dove into during that expansion plan. How was it like to come to Mexico and kick off that side of the business, and why did you select Mexico first?
Yeah, so so Mexico was the second market we launched technically. So first we launched in the United States, and we found that the only people that paid us tended to be from Mexico. And so we kind of followed them back to Mexico, and it turned out that the business here and in other emerging markets where the financial system is less mature, that was actually where the business was. And so we ceased operations in the US and focused on, 9 growing to 12 emerging markets is kind of our core business these days.
And so, are there any particular steps that you followed in terms of educating the consumer here in Mexico? And, what are some of those factors as far as coming into a market like Mexico that has so much opportunity and really spearheading a business where there was a void, right? And from a technology standpoint, it sounds like you all identified a problem that needed to be solved, and that really took off here, right? And so take us through that from a risk management standpoint too. What problem were you solving?
The big one for us, I think, was meeting the user kind of where they were. And so a lot of the credit products that were especially on offer at the time required that the user have a prior credit history, proof of income, just a lot of things that the reality is most people in the markets we serve, if they're making a variable cash income by doing gig economy work, these are things they can't provide. And so we really just started by having the lock in place and some pretty simple criteria. And, we've evolved that over time now so that we have some pretty interesting models that are, as strong as what you would see with a prime population, and have been able to grow that into a really, really successful business.
You have a strong background in fintech as well, right? So from an emerging technology standpoint, are you using today AI or any of these other emerging technologies to really supplement your offering?
Yeah, we do. It's been fun for me to see, I think, the maybe rewind to 2021, and everyone wanted to brag about how many people they had just hired. It was like the mark of we have 500 engineers. And I think these days, and something that resonates more with me is how much can you get done with as few people as possible through intelligently using AI and automation? And so, that's really a journey we've been on for years now. So 2 of our data pipelines are fully automated. And that's why with a team of we have 9 full-time machine learning and data scientists.
Wow.
And that, which is, quite small for the revenue and EBITDA and number of markets we serve. And the reason we do that is we've been able to automate many of those pipelines so that there's little to no human intervention.
How has it been embraced here in Mexico? A big topic of discussion here at the conference is AI, quantum computing, really the use of technology. And it sounds like the newer generations here have been more proactive in embracing technology to really supplement some of these business strategies. And so, how have you found that part of the business here?
I think it's been great. I think that like I said, for me, the mark of technology that works is you can get more output with less input. And I think that's kind of what we've really focused on here. And it's been cool to see as well that I think in emerging markets, I've seen a lot of uptake in AI, where even potentially professionals in the US who have more pre-existing resources haven't made that jump as quickly.
Brad, you've spent a big part of your career as a chief risk officer, and want to shift gears on the current landscape. Just in general, given the landscape that we're in from a geopolitical standpoint, what do chief risk officers today worry most about? In general.
The situation now is really one where kind of the ideal risk management, people always tell you it's proactive, right? How can we get ahead of that problem that's going to emerge? And I think this environment has also shown for me the power of having a really incredible team in place, because it's an environment where you can't be proactive. It's nearly impossible to anticipate what's going to happen. I mean, my God, tomorrow, but certainly not a week or a month from now. And so smart hedging policies, an awesome team that can react when crazy stuff happens, is really critical. So I recently in Mexico, some of the banks had gotten put on the FinCEN list, but immediately the team jumped on it, found a new way to route cash, to figure that problem out. It was really incredible to see.
Are you finding that chief risk officers are leveraging AI quite a bit to minimize risk, or from a compliance or legal standpoint? How is the technology really helping the role of the chief risk officer today?
I break it down by a couple of verticals, right? So in the machine learning pipeline piece, it enhances explainability and it increases the velocity of output with less input, right? So AI can write code, so you don't have to hire 10 machine learning engineers. You can hire 2 machine learning engineers. In compliance, I think it's the more kind of canonical and broader use of it can replace sort of boring, somewhat rudimentary tasks where, you need a report filed about the potential KYC exception or something like this. So those are the 2 ways I've really seen us using them. And I think those resonate with other risk officers.
Yeah. And it seems like, there's going to be more tools to really help the risk officers. And it's exciting to see that in inclusion of the technology into their day-to-day routine, right?
Absolutely.
And finally, we're at an educational conference. Riskmathics in general really strides itself on its programs. What advice, from an educational standpoint, would you give this next generation or the attendees that are here at the conference or engaged in these programs on how to stay on top of the latest and greatest from a risk management standpoint? How would you incorporate education and the importance of it?
I would really emphasize, don't go too deep too early in your career. Or at least for me, something where I had a lot of value is I was interested in Java coding and building websites. I was interested in writing algorithms. I was interested in bond valuations. And when you're young and you're full of energy, you should pursue all of those things. And it pays dividends when you've done that later in your career, so that you're not just hyper-focused on one skill set. And I think it makes you more adaptable as technology shifts and new tools emerge.
Absolutely. And that's why programs such as this one here today are important to continue to learn about the different topics. And I know that you'll be on one of those panels here today. So thank you for sharing all of your perspectives and for being with us here in Mexico City.
Absolutely. Silvia, thank you so much for the time.
My pleasure.